Hey friends, I'm Otis Gibbs, and this is my buddy Warner Hodges. He's going to share some personal stories about touring with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
We did 5-6 months with Stevie. We did almost a year off and on with the T-Birds when they had Tough Enough and all that. And the Stevie dates were just magnificent. You know, Stevie was bumming cigarettes from me all the damn time. It's like, wow, Stevie, seems like you could buy a pack of cigarettes, you know. I have to be honest, Stevie was drinking a lot then, and I got to admit, so was I. We just had a great time. I do remember Stevie was really big on, he made sure his sound check would be cut short to make sure we got an hour to sound check and an hour to go get ready before the show. And he took it upon himself to make sure that happened. Every blue moon he'd come to you guys got everything you want? Come to the dressing room. You missing something? I'll go bitch. You missing something? You know, which was cool. I mean, Stevie had been on the other end of that coin, you know. We were pretty fortunate with the bands we opened up for early on. We probably did 100 shows with REM back in the old days. I'm talking 81, 82, 83. We were fortunate. Stevie was great. He was really good to us. It was one of the first tours we did where our fans dug him. His fans would at least tolerate us if they didn't dig. If we were a little too punk rock for them or whatever, they tolerated us. They didn't hate us. There were a lot of places Jason and the Scorchers played where people just didn't know what to do with it, you know. It's like, what are they, a country band, a rock band? 40 years later, dude, I don't know. I still don't know the answer to that question, you know. We were both of them. But Stevie's fans put up with us. The T-Bird thing, that worked too. We weren't a blues band by any means. Those guys were a lot more, you know, blues oriented and had a lot of hardcore blues people coming to see them. But those people at least would tolerate Jason and the Scorchers, let us do our show. Some of them become fans, you know, and there were usually a good amount of Jason and the Scorchers fans at those shows too, so. And he had like one of the first Dumbles, right? And it was great. It didn't have the strain reliefs that hold the power tubes, you know, the heads mounted power tubes are hanging. He played so loud the power tubes would vibrate out of the amp, you know. The damn power tubes would just fall out of the amp. I mean, he was an amazing player, but good God, it was loud, clean loud, you know, and it had the plexiglass shields up and all that stuff. Like, yeah, right. Like that was going to do anything to stop anything, you know. The thing that was also cool about his rig, Stevie was the first guy I've ever seen. He had an amp tech and a guitar tech, because same thing kind of with the AC/DC thing. His amp rig was basically a pawn shop of Fender stuff. You know, he had the Fender Leslie, he had the Fender Vibroverbs, and there would be 3 or 4 things lined up. And if something broke down, they just pulled it out of the way and slid everything forward. They knew stuff was going to break down. You know, he was running the hell out of it. It's going to happen. You drive a car at 100 miles an hour, guess what's going to happen? It's going to break down, you know? And it was just kind of planned on. He had a guitar tech that did nothing but an amp tech that did nothing but dealt with amps, and a guy that dealt with guitars. Caesar, I think, dealt with guitars, you know? It was cool. They were Strats. Yeah, they were Stevie's Strats, but it's weird. I don't look at guitars the way a lot of people look at guitars. You know, I mean, like Dan Baird names guitars. It's a guitar. I'm not going to name the damn guitar. It's a tool to do the next job, you know. I do know the old Strat, the Strat. I mean, I've never seen anybody do to a guitar what he did to that guitar, and it went and went and went. He was a walking Stratocaster endorsement feed. You know, the only one I've ever seen better is the Keith Richards pulling the telly off, hitting the guy, putting it right back on, and going back to it. You know, there's your Fender telly ad in a nutshell. But Stevie, he was an amazing player. I mean, there's no way around it. I don't think he meant to do what he did. Bunch of dudes running around with a bad hat and a blanket around them now. You know, it's like so much. But at least we don't live in Austin. We don't have to see that every day. You know. You know, but he ran the tube screamer kind of weird too, because it was like volume all the way up, distortion all the way off. You know, it was just a little bit more. I actually run one of my boost pedals that way purposely because of the way he did it. I'm sure it's nowhere near what he was doing, but in my head, I'm getting there, you know. Those are mostly 4,000 or 5,000 seaters, you know, big theaters. It was cool. The Scorchers were able to do 1,000, 1,200 people. He was able to do 2 or 3. It worked, putting the two bands together. We were able to move into a little bit larger venue. It was also, once again, back when MTV still played videos, that really helped, you know. People that didn't know about you found out about you. So Scorchers were still hitting on both barrels at that point. Yeah, but it was usually like, oh my God, you know, drink fiascos, you know, especially with the T-Birds, more with the T-Birds than Stevie. Stevie, you know, by the end of the night, it would be over. At that point, I did, however, I got to see 2 of the Stevie shows after he'd sobered up when he was flip-flopping with Jeff Beck. Ungodly. And it was great because he's playing with Jeff Beck. He had to be ungodly because Jeff Beck was going to be ungodly, you know. He's Jeff Beck. But they were magnificent shows. And it was great. Those guys at that point, they had quit drinking and doing drugs. They were trying to quit smoking. And they're literally, you know, one of the band guys asked Stevie if he had any of the Nicorette gum, and Stevie's like, oh, I only got 2 pieces, man. I only got 2 pieces. I'm like, you guys are Bogart and Nicorette gum, man. I got a car. I'll go to the store for you, you know. Oh, man, he was a monster. But he was a really good dude, too, you know. And every day he'd come in, it was when he'd done Scuttlebutton. I don't know if you've seen the video where he comes in the leopard print coat. You can tell he's just been woke up out of a tour bus bump, like 4 in the afternoon. He's still wiping his face and all that. He hits a couple of licks, and then they break into Scuttlebutton, and it's like, my God, you know. It's the record plus. And the dude has just woke up from probably being pretty hungover, you know. Astounding. But he'd walk in every day, hey, Warner, give me a Cruel Cigarette. What song you want to hear? It's like, oh, I'd love to hear Scuttlebutton, Steve. You know, yeah. Unbelievable. You know, it was just there in spades, man. He's, you know, I think about it, he's kind of, I've heard Clapton talk about this, and the blues guys, he's one of the only guys I've ever seen, you know, back, especially at that point when he's drinking. I mean, the solos could get just like, oh my God, you know, ridiculously long. But it just kept coming, man. It was like he had this connection to the stars, and it wasn't regurgitation of the last lick over and over. It just kept coming, you know. And he never run out of anything to say, which in a blues gig happens quite a bit, you know. The only other guy, I mean, Danny Gatton, probably the deepest pockets I ever saw, but Stevie had some pretty deep damn pockets, you know, lick-wise.